Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have an older Saturn. I think it's a 96 or a 97. The problem is that they get in a car, they turn the key, and sporadically it will start, and other days it won't start. Of course, this morning when I got in it, I turned the key. It started up probably about a dozen times. I got it inside the shop, and I was able to duplicate the problem, which I'm going to show you now. Hopefully it does it while we're going to check it together. So I already have a pretty good idea of what it is, but I'm going to bring you through the procedure to diagnose what it is and how to go about repairing it so that the guy doesn't get stranded on the road any longer. So, all right, so this one here, you put the key in the ignition, you turn the key, and this is what you get. Let's see if you can hear anything here. Keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully it don't start. That figures. You heard that, right? Let's try it again. All right. That's the noise we're getting. You hear that noise? And the engine is not spinning. You can hear the starter spinning, but not the engine. So that could be a couple of different things. It could be a problem with the starter motor itself, or it could be a problem with the ground going to the engine, or possibly the power lead down to the starter. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up front and we're going to check real quickly this. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to come in the front over here, and you see, I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. You see on the wall, the headlights are on. We're going to turn the lights on now. And what your first thing you're going to do is you're going to try to start the car while you're looking at the headlights. Those are just the parking lights, but I'm going to turn the headlights on, and the headlights should stay bright. So let's see what happens. That's the headlights. Alright, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's not supposed to happen either. See how it spins? Okay. So that's pretty much what's happening. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your trusty power probe out, and we're going to come in the engine compartment here, and we're going to see what's going on in the engine compartment. This is your battery, as you can see, but what we're going to basically do, hopefully you can see this okay. All right, we're going to get our power probe. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to check to make sure our cables are tight. And both cables are tight and not loose. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to check the ground on the engine to make sure that there's a good ground on the engine. And the way you do that is you just take your power probe, and if this light lights up green, then we know we have a good ground. And we do have a good ground. All right? Now what you can do is we're going to crank the engine just to make sure it stays green. Okay, so you can see, as you can see, the ground stays lit, so we know we're not losing the ground. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to down on the starter, and we're going to check down on the starter to make sure we have power to the start side of the wire, and that we have good power to the main feed from the battery down to the starter. You can do this with a test light. You should do with a voltmeter, connect the voltmeter up just for a power drop to make sure that you're not losing the ground in the engine itself, but you can do it with a power probe. So let me lift the car up and we'll continue from the bottom. Let's turn these lights off first. Okay, let me lift it up and then we'll come right back. Okay, now we're underneath the car, and as you can see, this is where the starter is located. It's up underneath the back of the engine. What we're going to do now is we're going to check to make sure we have a good ground on the starter. And the way we do that is we use our power probe to see if this light here lights up green. If it lights up green, we have a good ground, which we do. And now up here, this is your power. This is your power lead right here. So we should have power right here. See how it lights up red? We do have power. Now, you're going to need an assistant to do this, but you're going to have your assistant go up inside the car. Well, this purple wire right here, I hope you can see this okay. This purple wire right here is actually the power lead for the starter itself. And that should have power during the crank position. So we're just going to connect onto it, and then we'll have our assistant crank the engine. All right, crank it. Well, it's not supposed to do that. Crank it. Crank it. All right, that's what it's supposed to do. You see how that light is lit red? So we know that the starter now has got power here. Okay, thank you. We know that the starter has power here, and we know it has power here, and we know it has ground here. Well, this starter motor is no good. All right, now you can do the same thing with a voltmeter to test this at the same time too. So, all right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to get in the back. We're going to call the customer. We'll give him a price, and we'll make sure he wants to do it before we go any further. All right, so all right, let's go in the back and make some phone calls. All right, let's make a phone call. Hey Joey, how you doing? It's Jim, JNS. Hey, can I get a price and availability on a starter for a 96 Saturn with a 1.9 liter, please? The VIN code is an 8. Okay. All right, do you stock it? You'll be able to get it though if I need it? What time do you think I'll actually see it here at my shop? Okay. All right, I'll call you right back, all right? Thank you. Bye. All right, they don't stock it. I kind of figured they wouldn't. It is an older vehicle. It's a 96. But let's call the customer, run the numbers past them, and let's make sure we're going to do it. Voicemail again. Hey, whoop, this him calling me right back now.
Call from 2018758.
Hey, Chico, how you doing? It's Jim. Yeah, I was actually just going to leave you a voicemail so you can disregard it. I think I just said, hey, this is, and then you rang in. So, all right. Got the car, of course, it started right up this morning without a problem. But I was able to get it into the shop, get it up on the lift, and I played around with it 5, 6, 7 times, and finally I was able to get it just to do that, like that machine gun type noise that you get. So it's the starter. It definitely needs to have the starter replaced. I checked power and ground of the starter, and everything appears to be okay. But when we try to start it on the start side of the wire, it still has power and everything. It's definitely something going wrong inside the starter itself. Okay, just wanted to make sure it was okay. The parts store doesn't have it in stock. I'm going to have them send it in. So as soon as oh yeah, no, you'll have it today. You'll have it today. Okay, all right. Okay, sounds good. All right. All right, Chico. All right, I'll give you a call later. Thank you. Bye. Don't you wish everybody was like that? You don't even care how much it costs. Just whatever it is, take care of it. So, all right, let me order up the starter and we'll get back outside and continue. From what I remember, this starter here is not that bad to do. I think the worst part is getting, the bottom bolt is very visible. I think the upper bolt, you really can't even see it. You pretty much have to go by feel. But I'm going to look on the computer just to see, because maybe the bolt goes in from the top too. So let's order the part first, and then we'll get back out there and continue. Hey, what's up? It's Jim. Hey, I called up before about a starter for a 96 Saturn. I don't think they had it in stock. They had to pick it up. But can you get it for me then, please? I think it's the SL1. They didn't even ask me about that actually, but it is the VIN code is 8 if it makes any difference. I think that was the single, the 1.9 liter. Yeah, I think they all had the same engine anyway. Okay, beautiful. All right, I appreciate. Correct. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Bye. All right. That's what I get a kick out of. You call the parts store. They ask you for the VIN code. You call back the parts store, and now they want to know, is it SL1, is it SC? And it's all the same starter anyway. So, all right, let's get out there and let's get started. Let's pull that starter out, and hopefully by the time we get it out, the new one is here, and we can just continue working on it. So, all right, let's get out there. Okay, first thing we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect that the battery cable. And you can disconnect either the negative or the positive. It really doesn't matter. What I would recommend though is take off your negative all the time. That way if you're on your positive and you happen to touch it by accident, you're not going to short it out and blow it up. So try taking off your negative and you'll be fine. By removing the ground from anything on the car, you won't have to worry about shorting it out. All right, make sure you push that cable out of the way so that it doesn't pop back up and touch into anything while you're working underneath here. You'll see that what I did is I actually located it off to the side underneath here and out of the way, so you don't have to worry about it accidentally popping back up there and gravitating back over to it and touching into it. So make sure you have it stuffed out of the way, and that's it. All right, now this starter, I did look at it. All the bolts and everything are underneath the bottom, so let's lift it up and we're going to continue from the bottom. Okay, I'm not sure how you're going to be able to see here, but I'll try to do the best I can. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take that lead off right there. That's your positive. That's probably a 13 millimeter. I'm wrong. It's a 14 millimeter. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, no, I'm wrong. It's actually, it is a 13 millimeter. All right, so we just break that loose. And once you break it loose, you can just take it off by hand, and we're going to relocate these wires off to the side. Just remember how many wires are on there so you don't make a mistake. We have one right here, and we have the second one right here. So we have two wires we have to reconnect. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off that little purple wire underneath there. That's probably about an 8 millimeter. So we're going to unscrew that little 8 millimeter screw. Let's just make sure it is. A lot of times you got to go by feel. You really can't even see up in there what's exactly there. Okay, I was wrong. It's a 10 millimeter. Well, you got me wrong twice today here. All right, so we just loosen that lead up now, and then we can unscrew that 10 millimeter off of there, and we'll relocate that wire off to the side also. Now the nut doesn't matter if you drop it and you lose it, no big deal. The new starter comes with it. But we'll take that lead off now. That's our start wire. And we'll just relocate that off to the side for now. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to break this one loose here. It's probably a 13 millimeter also. Okay, the one that's a real pain in the rear end is going to be the top one because you can't even see it. So you have to go by feel. So let's see what I can come up with here. I have an idea of where it's located. And now if you can't get it, you can get in there with the mirror. But we're going to go, okay, that's it, I felt it. And now we'll just break it loose. Now this ratchet's a little long for this, but I'm going to try to break it loose first, and then we can always get in there with a shorter ratchet. Okay. Okay. Fell off. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, I was able to break it loose. Now most of the time, once you break them loose, you can screw them out. Okay, here we go. Now that bolt you want to be careful with because you will need to use this one over again. So if this falls, make sure you know where it goes. Okay. That's a pretty long bolt actually. Okay, now I'm able to get to this on here on the ground. It may be a little difficult for you. And this one, you remember, we broke this loose before. We'll just hold the starter in place and unscrew that bolt. Okay. I hope you can see this okay. All right. And then take your starter out. Like this. Okay. I just want to see up here. I don't see anything really wrong with it. Sometimes you'll find it pretty clear cut. It's broken, but it looks okay. So, all right, let's grab the new starter as soon as it gets here, and we'll put this job back together. Let's see. Hope you can see that okay. Let's try it and see. See how that drive just drops back and forth out of there? So the starter drive itself actually broke, but it doesn't pay to try to get a drive and replace it. We're just going to change the entire starter, and then we'll wrap this job up. So, okay, we'll grab the new starter as soon as it gets here, and then we'll come back and we'll put this job back together. All right, go get a cup of coffee and relax a little bit. Okay, whenever you get your new starter Always make sure that it hasn't been in somebody else's shop before. I can't tell you how many times that happens to me. So we'll just take this out of the packaging. And then we're going to match it up to make sure that it's the correct starter. Always put them side by side and take a look at them just to confirm that they're the right ones. And as you can see, these are the correct starters. See? Looks exactly the same. All right? So this one, you know, was rocking. This one is not. All right, so let's get underneath there and let's put the starter back in and let's get this job out of here. All right? That's the new one. All right, I hope you can see okay. All right, next thing we're going to do now, before we go up any further with it, we're going to take off all of these nuts on here too. Don't lose them, because these, you are going to need to put these back on. We'll just set these off to the side for now. Okay. All right, then we just get your starter back up where you previously took it out. Make sure you don't have any wires pinched up underneath the starter, and put it back into its opening. And then we're going to catch the bolts. Now, before you put a bolt in with a wrench or whatever, make sure you screw it in by hand, as far as you can by hand. Now, this particular one, I'm going to screw it in almost all the way. And the reason I'm going to do that is because that way it'll make it a little easier trying to get the upper bolt back into its position up there without dropping it. Okay, now it's pretty much up there. It moves a little bit, but it's pretty good. All right, now if you have a magnetic socket, that's great. If you don't, I'm going to show you a trick you can do. What you can do is just take a piece of paper or cardboard or a shop towel, whatever, put the bolt in there, and as you can see, it isn't going anyplace. Now comes the fun part, trying to get it back in without seeing where it's going. It is a pain in the rear end, but once you got it caught, you just jiggle your starter around and screw it in as far as you can by hand. Again, make sure no wires are pinched between the starter and the transmission, the bell housing where it connects into. All right, now once you've got it screwed in there as far as you can, we're going to tighten everything up now. You don't want to go too tight because you're screwing into aluminum. Okay. Now you can use a shorter ratchet. Okay, that's nice and tight. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that purple wire, put that purple wire back on where it came off. Up. I'm going to put you on hold for 1 second here. Don't go nowhere. Okay, so now after you have the starter bolted in, you take your purple wire and you reattach your purple wire where it came off. And make sure you use your 10mm screw and lock washer. Very important. Tighten it on by hand as far as you can. Now this we're going to tighten on by hand. Now you want to make sure that wire is not touching anything up there, that it's freely not touching anything at all. Now this you have to remember, you're only going into, it's a plastic, so you don't want to go real tight and crack it. So you just go in there and you snug it in. If you tighten it too tight, you're going to crack it, and you'll be changing that starter again. All right, now you put your leads back on. Remember, you took 2 of them off, so you have to put 2 of them back on. Put your lock washer on and your nut. Screw it down as far as you can by hand, making sure that your cables are not touching anything. Now after you have them in there, you grab your 13mm wrench, and again, you don't have to go real tight. You just want to snug it down because you don't want to crack anything. Okay? Now make sure that your wires are not touching anything. Make sure they're in their spot where they belong right here. And then underneath here, we're done. So we have our 2 starter bolts are tight, this one and the one that you can't see. We have our power lead tightened on, and we have our start wire reconnected and tightened down. All right, next thing we're going to do is let's lower it down and reconnect our battery. Okay, now that we have the car back down on the ground, we're going to reconnect our negative battery cable. All right, nice and tight. All right, that's it. Let's start it up, make sure it's okay. Okay, that's it. So now we are finished. The job is done. And the last thing we're gonna do is just make sure all your wiring is resituated where it's supposed to be. Okay, all done. Starter's done. We have made sure that our 2 bolts in the back of the starter are both tight. We made sure that our power lead here was tight. We made sure our start wire here was tight. And we made sure that it wasn't touching anything and grounding out by accident on either one of these wires. All right, so that's it. This job is all done and out the door. So, all right, let's back it out the door. We'll get the next one in, and we'll continue. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.